Conor O'Neill, also younger than me. Deacons Illustrated, and I've been perusing. His byline is on everything on Deacons Illustrated, as it should be, because he's a nominee for the North Carolina Sports Writer of the Year award. And good luck to you on that, sir. Did this surprise you yesterday?
It's a simple question with a complicated answer, which I'm not sure makes for the best radio.
That's fine. Let's try. Let's hash it out.
If you asked me if this was coming a month ago, I would have said yes. I thought it was coming. Just based on the way Dave has talked the last year or so, the challenges and hurdles that come with trying to coach in this day and age at a place like Wake Forest. But if you asked me within the scope of the last 3 weeks, I would have said no. In the last 2 press conferences going into games this year, he sounded kind of re-energized and rejuvenated with some of the things that he had been told by Wake's administration about how much support he'd have going forward with revenue sharing. And that was almost like this dangled carrot of, okay, just get through the end of this season, obviously try to win the last 2 games and get to a bowl game.
Mm-hmm.
But, it's there. They're not going to have a level playing field, because when have college athletics ever had a level playing field? But he likened revenue sharing to at least moving the competitive balance closer to what it was pre-pay for play and pre-world of collectives that we live in now. And before all that stuff, Wake Forest was ranked in the top 10 in a couple of years in the CFP, and they were going to 7 straight bowl games and winning a bunch of in-state games, and they were a well-oiled machine. So Dave sounded re-energized by all that. And then, come to find out today, it's almost like he was trying to fire himself back up, but it really wasn't there. And so for the last week or week and a half, this has really been kind of coming down the pipe with Dave. And yesterday, I think he went to John Curry, and John gave him one last pitch to try to stay on.
Right.
Because they say things in press conferences. Sometimes you don't put much stock in them. I find it pretty easy to believe that John Curry and President Susan Wente put a lot of not eggs in the basket, but spent a lot of time trying to convince Dave Clawson not to do this, and his mind was just kind of made up.
Conor O'Neill, Deacons Illustrated and Devils Illustrated, at Conor O'Neill _DI is joining us here on the Adam Gold Show. See, I think that's the exact answer I would have given, and I mentioned it earlier, very open in the show. I said, I'm not surprised, but at the same time, I am now because of the timing, because the portal opened, a quarterback from, Northern Illinois, popped out in Winston-Salem. So we got somebody out of the portal. I guess this goes to, we got the best players we can afford, right? Didn't that a quote from Dave Clawson at one of his press conferences earlier in the year? We got the best players we can afford. The portal's already open, and there's already a player coming out at Wake Forest. I was surprised that once that started, that he would step down, before getting a chance to coach these guys.
Yeah, I mean, he told us today that he had 10 recruits, portal guys at his house on Sunday for, I don't know. Wow. I don't know if he mentioned coffee or a brunch or some kind of recruiting function where, he's still recruiting up until he's just his heart's not in it anymore. The timing is never going to be perfect. I think, right. I guess in a perfect world, this was happening 2 weeks ago, and we're talking about it then. But you still run the same risk of losing your entire team to the portal. And based on the way things go, if a player is even 1% thinking of not playing at Wake Forest next year because he doesn't know who the coach is going to be, then he should enter the portal and make himself available to hear from everybody and anybody that would want him to play for their team. So, yeah, it's tough. I mean, it's tough being in the room today with so many assistant coaches and staff members that have been at Wake Forest for all 11 seasons that Dave has been there. I mean, there's not been like Dave Doeren had the really bad year in 2019 and recalibrated his staff with new coordinators. Dave has never had to do that. He's had defensive coordinators leave, and I think he's on his fourth one in 11 years, or was on his fourth one. But he's never had to go through that season where he gets the sense that it was either, hey, you're going to make some changes within your staff, or your job is going to be different.
Mm-hmm.
It's never been that. So it's an emotional time. That kind of goes without saying, I think, but still it's there and it's raw for Dave.
Conor O'Neill is joining us here in the Adam Gold Show. I'm gonna flip to Duke basketball in a second before we say goodbye, but I want to ask you about what is it about Wake Forest? They had Jim Grobe for a long time, and Grobe was a really good coach and won an ACC championship. And the records are pretty similar, right? Grobe, I think, was 77 and 82, so just 5 games under, and at Wake Forest, that's sneaky great. And Clawson was, I think, 67 and 69 in about the same, run in terms of length of stay. Again, sneaky great and what he did. And you could argue that Clawson did it in a better era with like the rise of Clemson, even though Florida State was down. Grobe did it before Clemson became Clemson, and Florida State was sort of also in that weird period. But still, what is it about Wake? Is it the culture? Is it the alumni? Is it, I don't know, is it the barbecue? What is it in Winston-Salem, seriously, that has given them, I mean, almost 30 years, 25 years of very good football?
I think it's just a combination of how tight-knit the community is. There's some luck involved, and it's also how much those coaches have gotten support. I mean, Jim Grobe had enough reasons to turn down Nebraska. I think either right before or right after the Orange Bowl season in 2006. Dave Clawson talked extensively about how much better, and this not just today. I mean, this has been over the last 5 to 6 years when his name would pop up on searches. The most public one was Virginia Tech in 2021. I mean, the Wake Forest job got so much better from 11 years ago to the month that Dave Clawson was hired to now the position that he just resigned from. The facilities, if you time traveled back 11 years, you'd never understand how the facilities would have gotten to where they are today. With the indoor facility and the room where we actually had the press conference is a brand new facility, brand new as in like within the last 3 years it's been built. It's a remarkable commitment from a school that everybody kind of likes to put down, for lack of a better term or lack of a more radio suitable term.
Right.
But Dave has been pretty steadfast in this, and it's hard to disagree with him. Like, everybody has this preconceived notion of what Wake Forest is and what, the smallest Power 5, now Power 4 conference schools football program was supposed to look like and what the infrastructure was supposed to be. And when it actually gets to campus and when you actually see what goes into that program, you're blown away. It exceeds all expectations that people have when they're coming in without any idea of what they're walking into there at the facility. So, look, they've done a great job making it a much better job than it was when Dave Clawson took the post 11 years ago. The last 2 years haven't shown it to be the best job, but the kind of rededication that comes with revenue sharing and with John Curry confirming that they're going to spend every dollar that they're allowed to based on the House settlement coming down the highway in 2025. It's going to be a better job than it has been for not only the last 2 years, but I think the last decade.
It's just one of those places, man. It's the smallest Power 4 school. It's a private school. It's got a smaller alumni base. I mean, winning there is, as difficult as it is to win at Duke. But Duke's on a run of really good coaches. Wake's on a run of really good coaches. I hope the next one is just as good. Real quick about the Blue Devils, who will play George Mason tonight. George Mason, they're not a school in the 200s or the 300s. It's a pretty competitive, mid-conference, middle conference school. What have you seen from the Blue Devils? How much is the Isaiah Evans experience, you think? Is that going to be with us for the long haul? What do you make of what we've seen from Duke over the last few weeks?
I think if I know John Shire and his coaching tendencies the way that I'd like to think I know them, I think you'll see Isaiah get a chance in the first half of just about every game, indefinitely, to see if does he throw him in there, and is Isaiah hot?
Right.
And if Isaiah's hot, you ride the hot hand. We saw that. They have the best win of the season because of that. I also think Isaiah runs hot and cold, and if he's cold, then you've got other pieces.
Yeah.
You're not sitting there relying on Isaiah when you've got if Sion James starts again, then Caleb Foster's coming off your bench. It'll be interesting to see if Malik Brown plays tonight. He missed last week's game. He didn't even have a boot on last week, so I'm inclined to think he plays tonight. I'm inclined to think that just the quick turnaround of going Louisville to Incarnate Word in about 49 hours made that kind of untenable for him. It's going to be a bit of a dogfight tonight. Both of these teams are in the top 10 in KenPom in some defensive metrics when it comes to making teams miss shots.
Right.
I think soft rims at Cameron notwithstanding, there might be a lot of missed shots hitting the iron tonight.
Oh man, what a sell! What a selling point for college basketball. Conor O'Neill predicting a lot of missed shots tonight. That's fantastic.
I'm not doing a good job for the HC Network on that one. But yeah, it is two teams that excel in making you miss shots.
Perfect. Conor, man, thank you so much for the time. Merry Christmas to you. I will talk to you soon.
Thank you, Adam. I appreciate it.
You got it. Conor O'Neill _DI.